BBL 14 is underway and 4 teams are out of the gates.
Welcome to the Big Bash.
The Scorchers reminded us all why the Perth Furnace is the hardest trip in the Big Bash.
And the Scorchers once again are off to an absolutely wonderful start.
And the Sixers and Renegades put their firepower on display, but it was the home team that chalked up the win.
Vinny Deutsch has sent away back to the SCG. Big finish for the Sixers.
The spark's been lit and it's just getting going. This is The Surge.
Stoinis,
Yes, welcome to The Surge, and it is so exciting. The BBL is back. A couple of games already, some close finishes and some excellent cricket. You're with Adam White. Our special guest today is Matt Kuhnemann. He'll join us shortly. But my co-host up in Sydney is Steve O'Keefe. What a great time to get Steve involved. Sort of. He kind of could have even been playing last night against the Renegades with the famous magenta, but he's now a retired cricketer. Steve O'Keefe, welcome to The Surge.
Whitey, I've been following The Surge online, and this is just a phenomenon. Is that right? I've got that right?
It's a ratings bonanza.
I'm excited to come on board, mate. It's a great time of year, isn't it? We've got summer, we've got Christmas, we've got the BBL, and, of course, we have a Sixers win kick off the campaign. So I've really liked what I've seen so far in the BBL. I've got to be honest, 30,000 in Perth to kick us off, a healthy crowd at the SCG. And the Thunder will start their campaign tonight over at Marnica. So keen for a lot of reasons to see how that game pans out. But, yeah, there's a nice buzz in the air, and I can tell you it's a lot easier answering questions sitting here than it is out in the middle. So I'm happy to be on the show, mate.
That's right. You're on the other side. So straight into it. What's it like sitting on the couch watching your Sixers play as opposed to being part of it? Was it an unusual feeling for you?
Have you seen Walter White from Breaking Bad, where he's just sitting there in his jocks with a bowl of nachos, or Homer Simpson there with, the dip and the nachos on your stomach, just criticising every play and every ball, like, pitch it up. What was that? That's junks. That's great. As I said, just to be able to sit there uninhibited watching the game. I find that I'm watching more cricket now than ever because there isn't that pit in your stomach about the pressure of having to play and warm up, and you can watch it with so much enjoyment. Although, mind you, last night there were some moments with the Sixers, and because of that connection that you have as a player, I'm still finding myself getting quite nervous. I was pacing around the living room, particularly at the back end of that chase. So I think all in all, I'm really enjoying finishing off my career. And now I've found a new kind of love and respect. We were chatting earlier off the show. I've been watching a lot more cricket, particularly Shield cricket, and mate, I'm really fulfilled as a cricketer and really enjoying watching this new crop of cricketers come through and showing us what they're good at.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the show, I remember talking to you the morning after the final from last year, and you were happily retired. You thought you'd made the right decision. I'd heard suggestions that they were going to try and convince you to change your mind and go around again. And I remember you saying, "No, I'm happily retired." Sort of 9-10 months on, maybe 11 months on. Are you still very comfortable with the decision that you made?
Oh, Whitey, absolutely. I think, that definitely wasn't the physio trying to push me back into playing, because I'd take up 9 out of his 10 hours of the day just strapping calves and knees. So happily. I think because the way that I was able to finish was bittersweet. I mean, Jorley, with his outstanding career so far and his success with Heat, but finishing off on the right way leaves you fulfilled. It was bittersweet losing against the Heat, but it was at home, it was in front of family and friends, and I couldn't have pictured a better ending except for a win. So from that perspective, it allows you then to transition as a player into the next part of your life. I'm living up north in Lennox Head, but still remaining very connected to a lot of the players around the country because there's still that love and passion, Whitey. I'm listening to you and Shield coverage and following the Surge online and the BBL. So, it was the right decision for me. And, we're watching players like Joel Davies get an opportunity last night for the Sixers, and, he's only 21. I feel like if I was there, I'm probably taking up his spot or maybe taking Murph's spot in that side. So, I'm glad that these kids now get an opportunity to get out in the middle. I spoke to Joel this morning after his game, and he was telling me how nervous he was, and we were talking about Fields and how well I thought he bowled, and I'm excited for him as a kid. He represents the Manly district in Sydney. And as a young player, you're seeing a 21-year-old step up into that big moment and relish it and take his opportunity. So I'm super excited for him. So, yeah, in short, mate, it was the right decision. I feel very fulfilled and very happy, like I said early on in the show, to be asking the questions and answering them from here than out in the middle.
That's right. You've flipped teams. So Matt Kuhnemann is going to be our special guest very shortly. But as we do on the Surge, it's time for the power plays, some of the big talking points that are happening in the competition at the moment in the BBL. And I want to start by talking about your old team, the Sixers. And I want to talk about Moses Enriquez because he's one of my favourite players with just the way he leads his teams. A bit like Ashton Turner. He can captain a team, but also be responsible for the way the game is played, the pace of the game, the control that he can have on a game. And he did it with the bat last night. It was an astonishing performance, just how well he looked, how good he looked out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take you right back to the start, Whitey. I mean, we've got a coach, we nickname Yoda in Greg Shipperd, cool, calm, collected at the top, and that's reflected in Moses. And again, they won the toss and bowled, the Sixers, and you'd think there could have been a bit of scar tissue from last year. We did the same thing against the Heat and got done, and it was the wrong decision. But, it's that calmness that Moses had at the toss to look at the conditions, see a bit of tinge of green and grass on the wicket, notice it was a bit soft, and be able to put his hand up and say, look, guys, I think this is going to be the wicket to bowl on first. And I think it was the right call. However, the Renegades got off to a fantastic start, 1 for 80 off 8 or so. And the Sixers had missed their mark, missed their length, I think, a bit short and wide at times, a bit straight. But what they're able to do, and you can't underestimate this, is have this calm presence that Moses brings onto the field. He's able to put those fours and boundaries behind him and really focus on the next delivery. And I used to have a model called the P model. You plan, execute, and assess. And to try and do that in a small window in the Sixers, in Big Bash cricket, you don't have a lot of time to do it. But when you've got Moses at cover, he comes over to you and allows you to go through that process. Okay, what's just happened? What's your plan this delivery? Okay, take a deep breath and execute. And when you've got that calming presence there consistently through a bowling innings, no matter how far a team gets ahead, you always feel like you can bring them back. We talk about one-ball turnarounds, and Moses will continually talk about that in the huddles and moments. We're one ball away, guys, from flipping this around, and then we've got pressure and momentum. Guys, trust your skills here and really put the foot on the throat. And again, he hasn't played cricket for 6 weeks. Picks up a bat out in the middle. And I don't think one missed the middle all night. He was outstanding. Right from his first boundary where he danced down the wicket into Fergus O'Neill, smacked a massive 6, and then the way he was able to close the game out with Zampa bowling. One of the best, if not the best leggy in the world in white ball cricket. So, ominous signs for the competition and great signs for Moses. Getting old now, he's a veteran, hasn't played, as I said, for 6 weeks, but, started the campaign really quickly. And just on that as well, Ben Dorsch is hearing him interviewed at the end of the game. He was asked why the team has had success, and he goes, because there's so much belief and synergy in this group that no matter what position we're in, everyone knows their role really well. And they can go out there and execute. And wasn't that an exclamation mark at the end of the game, that massive 6 that hit the roof? I've only seen one bigger. John O'Well's hit Ben Dorsch's over that roof. But that was an exclamation mark that really has launched the Sixers season. We're only one game in, but, geez, what a way to start the season for them.
Yeah, it certainly felt like there was a bit of a statement made last night, particularly from the skipper. So Sixers seem to always win, but the Scorchers always seem to win as well, and they won the first game. And, again, it was a bit shaky there when it comes to team selection with quite a few important players missing from that team. Cooper Connolly gets an opportunity to bat higher in the order. But I want to talk to you more about we'll talk about Cooper in a second, but just their bowling group. And Brad Hodge spoke about this last week on the Surge, just around that defensive bowling. And when I mean defensive bowling, it's still attacking, but it's defence that seems to be king with the Scorchers, with the way that they bowl, that fast bowling artillery.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like baseball. I compare, it's offense and defense, really. Yeah, bowling, I consider just to be completely defensive. You're defending a total. You can be aggressive in the way that you decide to bowl your deliveries, but ultimately you are defending a score. And there's no real better quartet, I think, in the competition than that four that the Scorchers have. you can't underestimate how well they play at home. I think to win the title and or to go very deep and make the finals, you need to own your home ground. And there's no team. I think every team dreads going over there and playing. The Scorchers at Optus Stadium, the Furnace, the pressure's on you. And it's guys like Behrendorff at the top who are relentless with their length. They're always attacking the top of the stumps. Very rarely will you get a short ball or width from him. And he was cagey as well. They tried some ramps. He followed him with a few swinging deliveries. You've got the battering ram in Lance Morris who can bowl fast and make you target. If you want to take on those square boundaries, you're going to have to be very perfect and surgeon-like with your hitting of the cricket ball, because if you miss it, you're going to get caught on the fence. And AJ Tye, you'll watch him bowl with mid on and mid off up for the most part, and he'll still find a way to attack the stumps. And that is so difficult to do because the margin of error at Optus Stadium is so small. You get, you overpitch by 30 centimetres and you're going 20 rows back straight. You get a little bit short, and when that ball gets soft, you can still get hit square of the wicket for boundaries. So they're a great batting lineup. The Scorchers, they're a great all-round team. Ashton Turner's brilliant in the middle for them. He's a big plus that they missed last year. But that bowling quartet, throw in the likes of Connolly and Ashton Agar with some spin. And, again, you're just finding it hard to think that they're not going to be there and thereabouts at the end of the year. But, they'll give plenty of batting coaches and team meetings headaches just trying to analyse how to get through that bowling unit. And, of course, I haven't mentioned Jai Richardson, but he is exceptional for Australian cricket if he's fit and not high-fiving blokes on the cricket field.
Yeah,
he's,
right.
he's outstanding, bowls with raw pace. And, again, with that new ball, they are relentless in attacking the stumps, and they got full reward against the Stars by doing so.
Yeah, no, they were very good. Might actually talk to Matt Kuhnemann about Cooper Connolly. Just how do you bowl to someone like that with the bat speed he's got and the way he hits the ball? He is quite incredible. So just going back to the Renegades and the Sixers, from a Renegades point of view, we saw the Renegades as we thought they would. They went hard early. They've got a lot of firepower with their batting. Do you think it is a sustainable way of playing cricket?
Look, I think, I've got to tip my cap to players like Josh Brown and Drake Fraser McGurk, or Berserk as he's been nicknamed now. They put teams under pressure from ball one, and as a fielding team, you're walking out there and you know what you're getting straight away. You compare and contrast to say the Sixers. You watch a James Vince is a little bit more stylish and builds himself into an innings. Still very effective, but these guys are going to look for the boundaries, and Sixers, straight away, and it puts you under immense pressure. You have to be so clear about your plans, and then also be able to shrug off when you get hit for boundaries. Is it sustainable? Well, I guess time will tell. I think Mark Waugh was saying on commentary last night, when you're always looking to hit the ball in the air, it is very hard to stay consistent. And in T20 cricket, it's the word that every coach craves, right? Because the best teams in the comp, which is the Scorchers over the period of this 13, 14 seasons, they win 60% of their games. So that's how narrow the margin is. It's almost a coin toss when you walk out there. And if you're going out and you're blazing away and it doesn't come off and then it doesn't come off, you're putting a lot of pressure on your middle order and lower order. So is it sustainable? We will find out. Josh Brown, it has been so far. For Jake Fraser McGurk, his box office, he'll put bums on seats and you want to see. But I think from a Renegades point of view and a fan's point of view, you'll want to see that, develop into 50s and 60s and have a certain level of gears about the way that he wants to play. You can do that. There's no reason he can't, get off to a flyer in the first four, build for the next 4 or 5, get to the surge. I mean, wouldn't that be great to see Jake Fraser McGurk in at the surge, 11 to 12 overs in and dominating there. So I think as his game develops, he'll find a way that he'll bat deeper and deeper. He's got to give himself that credit to be able to do so. And I'm sure Cameron Watt will be having that conversation. It worked to some certain extent last night. They're off to a pretty good start, 1 for 80, as I said. But, is it sustainable for the competition? Well, maybe get me on after 40 games and I'll be able to answer it for you a bit more clearly.
I think we want it to work because it is that box office sort of, showstopper type of cricket that we all want to watch. And I think probably at the end of the day last night, it was more their bowling that let them down than their batting. I mean, their batting was pretty good when you look at it. And I still feel that the Sixers probably had the better of the conditions. As you said earlier, Moses won the toss and and made the most of it. So just before we go to a break, just the last of our power play topics, which it is the Stars. And look, we've got to remember, it is very, very early in the competition, and they had a tough start to have to go and travel over to Perth to play the Scorchers. But this is a team that's underperformed for such a long time. They can't afford to get off to a poor start, which unfortunately for the Stars did happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you said, Whitey, I think coaches and teams know they want to get into this tournament. Before, when it was 12, 14 games, you had a bit of extra time to get into the tournament. If you lost a couple, you could get it back. Now every game has so much more importance, and you want to start well. Builds confidence in your team, gets that, that 2 points that you desperately need. Stars have got a great outfit, and I guess we'll be waiting on Hilton Cartwright, as Marcus Stoinis said. That injury was horrible to see, and he's the heartbeat of that team. But in and around that team, they've got some great players. Webster, I think Tom Curran is an excellent signing. We saw that, 37 off 19 and a wicket, 1 for 25 off his 4. Stoinis as captain, I think, is a nice touch. He looks already a little bit more sort of calm and reserved to what they've had in the past. I think that's maybe what that group needs. So there were some positive signs, I think, coming from that Stars team that we've not seen in the past. I think their ability to develop and build an innings and a score is going to look markedly different to other years. And I think because they've got guys like Tom Curran to back end it. And I think players like Joe Clark at the top had success in Stars colours. And I'm excited about this young leg spinner, Hamish McKenzie. I watched a little bit of him, but a left-arm leg spinner in this competition is worth their weight in gold. Not a lot of teams have faced up against that style of bowling, and I think he gets a lot of work on the ball. I think he bowled reasonably well in those conditions, and I think he'll be a big reason why that team has success going forward, particularly at home. So I'm seeing positives from both Stars and Renegades. It's all about piecing together the full team performance and that complement. When it gets tight, are they able to go on and win? Do they have the Ashton Turner in the middle, that can guide them to victory? Do they have the Moses Enriques in the middle that can guide them to victory? Well, we'll find out into the tournament.
All right. Don't forget a reminder about our BKT Big Bash tipping competition. Join today for a chance to win $1,000 each week. And then, of course, the overall prize of $10,000. Download the Big Bash app to get involved today. We're off to a break. Matt Kuhnemann, part of the champion-winning Brisbane Heat, will join us in the studio next. Welcome back to The Surge. Steve O'Keefe, our special co-host, and our special guest is Matt Kuhnemann from the Brisbane Heat with us in the studio. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, I've got to ask you, it's been a very different 12 months for you, changing states, going and playing domestic cricket for Tasmania, but then still involved with the Brisbane Heat. How have you found your experience down in Tassie?
Yeah, it's been great so far. It's the move's been really smooth, and the boys are just a great bunch. I love playing under Jordan Silk and the coach Varney. So, I'm very lucky and fortunate to play some Shield cricket this year.
Was it then a bit weird going back to so many of your former Queensland teammates in the teal of the Brisbane Heat?
Not necessarily, because you play them in the Shield and one day comp, so you sort of catch up with them there. But mate, to be fair, it feels like the Heat season was like a month ago last year. So it comes around real quickly, and we have so many other interstate players and overseas players now. So it's really cool to be back.
Does it bring back memories? I mean, you are the champions from last year. You've had 2 really good years after what had been a sort of a challenging period for you. But to get back in camp with all your premiership teammates, what's that been like?
Yeah, it was good. It was good fun. Like every time I get to hang out with Spencer or McSweeney when he's around, and Xavier, they're sort of a couple of my real close mates. So we sort of muck around a fair bit on the field, off the field. So it's just really, really fun times, Big Bash, and it's sort of my favourite time of the year, actually.
Now, Sock has got a lot of questions for you, being a fellow left-arm finger spinner. So
I've got a lot of questions for Sock.
Well, there you go. I'm just going to let you guys have a conversation. I'm just going to listen. Over to you, Sock.
Oh, this is like, you won't understand what we're talking about. You understand this, Whitey, don't you? That we're a weird breed, us left-arm finger spinners. But no, well done, Matt, on your season and your form over the last couple of years. Whitey said, it was a really tough 4 or 5 years, wasn't it, for you guys as a squad and as a team? And then the last 2 years it's really clicked. You came from fifth, and then you made the final against the Scorchers. And then last year, I think on the back of some great team performances, but in particular yourself and Mitch Swepson, I think have really formed a dynamic duo as spinners. I wanted to ask, how do you prepare as a spinner? We're talking earlier about being a defensive sort of mindset as bowlers in T20 cricket. Is yours a defensive approach when you turn up to the game? Is it an attacking approach? You do a lot of homework, or you just sort of get out in the middle and just feel the game?
Yeah, we sort of myself, Swappo, and the Heat in particular, put a lot of big emphasis on playing well at the Gabba, winning at the Gabba, our home game. So, because our record wasn't great the last couple of years playing there. So, the spin economies, I think it's economies in the sevens for spin, and the fast bowlers around the 8 mark. So, we know spin works at the Gabba, and a lot of touring teams would come and actually out bowl us at sometimes all like 10 overs, 12 overs of spin. So, I sort of took the biggest thing for us was, well, for me personally, was getting Uzi involved, and he sort of was great for me, especially trying to get me to bowl from the short end of the Gabba. And so then allowed Swappo to attack 4 overs at the long end because he's a very attacking bowler. And for me, if I can be more of a defensive bowler, and that's sort of how I sort of get wickets anyway. So in regards to homework, I do a lot of homework. We have like sports analysis all the time, and then to be fair, I'm sort of just watching Sox last 4 or 5 years and sort of just going off whatever he did against batters and flick him a message and whatnot. And Aussie's massive said if you want to check anyone, just watch Sock. So Sock's been probably the premier spinner for 10 years in the comp. So he was my cheat code.
That's very flattering of you, mate. And you've got one thing that I didn't have, which is a ball that spins. So you're going to go a lot further in all 3 forms. But I'm keen to tap into that. You're talking about, you're bowling at the short end of the Gabba and you want to outbowl spinners, and you've done that. You came to the SCG and your spinners outbowled us at the SCG, which is something that we pride ourselves on doing. So not only are you doing it at home, you're doing it away. But what are some of the keys at the Gabba? So you've got a short boundary straight, Are you looking to bring your length? Are you looking to bowl a bit uglier, cut shots and into the hip? All these sorts of things. I think of people at home, they just want to see the ball beating the outside edge of the bat. But are they things that you focus on as a bowler when you're talking about defensive? Is in getting the ball more into the wicket and a little bit wider outside of batters' hitting zones? Yeah,
definitely. I think if you watch how I bowl compared to Sweppo's balls look beautiful. And for me, I'm thinking ugly is good, especially bowling at the short end of the Gabba. It could be short and wide, getting cut for one, and Sweppo's could be bowling nice loopy wrong ends and whatnot. So depending on the batter, but it's always sort of that the length's massive. Like the short end of the Gabba is 60 metres straight, but on the square side it could be 85 metres. So effectively just trying to get them to just hit the ball out there, and if they get 1, if they get 2, so be it, but just keep rotating the strike. And if the over goes to 6, it's a tick against your name. So that's sort of my role in the team. And if I can jag a couple of wickets along, then it sort of helps our bowling attack because we obviously have a world class fast bowling attack with Spencer, Xavier, and Ness. So that's sort of my role, is that defensive type play, and it sort of depends on conditions as well. So. I love bowling at SCG whenever you get a chance to, and probably that length comes a little bit fuller than the Gabba. But yeah, it's sort of just conditions based.
So I want to jump in here because I'm going to ask both of you a similar question. So when you start an over, Matt, are you thinking there's a sort of like a threshold, sort of under 8, over 8, where you feel you've had a good over? Because for those that are watching on the couch or heading onto the Gabba to watch you bowl, it'd be interesting to see from your point of view what's seen as a good over from a runs point of view.
Well, when I first start my spell, I'm just thinking don't go for 6 the first ball or 4, and then sort of get into your work there. I don't know. It depends how the scenario of the games, and if you're defending, if you've got runs on the board, you can be a bit more attacking or whatnot. So I'm sort of, my gauge is if you can get an over under 7, that's a good start to my spell. And if you hit for a boundary early, then actually just trying to get out of your over for under 10. So that's sort of it. It's very simple. I think I think Sock might agree with me. It's just trying to just do this little things right, and and go from there.
So to you, Sock, was it similar to you? I know it's a difficult question because it depends circumstantially on who's batting and so forth, but that whole idea of what a sort of under-over is for you for a left-arm spinner to feel like you've had a good over?
Yeah, I think Matt's touched on it simply, which is the way that we love to play cricket. The beauty of T20 cricket is you get 24 balls and you can plan out every single one. And it'll change if you've got the new ball and you're bowling in the power play versus bowling in the middle versus bowling at the death. So, there's different phases as a spinner that you go through. If you're bowling with the new ball up front, personally, it was just about trying to hit the stumps as much as possible and bring in maybe an arm ball because the ball's new. So let them take a risk off the stumps. When the field spreads, you can probably spread your bowling a little bit more, get a little bit wider, get into the hip, get ugly, as Matt talked about. And then at the death, it's just really shutting down those big overs that can go for 10 plus. It's okay to get hit. I always talk about spinners, out of your 4 overs, one of those overs is probably going to go for double figures. It just happens. But you want to get your full 4 quota in. So you've got to have that relationship, as Matt said, with the captain to be able to get your full 4 in. And if you're bowling that last over or if you get hit your second over, your first over, you've got 3 other overs to have an opportunity to bounce back. But yeah, a yardstick I think is somewhere between 6 or 7. If you're going above 8, I'd always feel like you probably missed the mark, and that's in any conditions. You pride yourself on it. Teams make 200. I think from ball 1, you're probably being really defensive, and that sometimes looks like Yorkers, can look like cut shots. But you're doing your holding role in that middle period. Your quicks generally have to bowl the really tough overs. They bowl the surge overs. They'll bowl generally 18, 19, 20. They've got the heavy lifting to do, and they can go at 8 plus. Our job in the spinners department is to be really defensive. And like I said, you've got 24 balls, and with a spinner, you go back at the end of the game and you can chat to them about every delivery. What was your plan this ball? How well did you execute? And then using that knowledge, what did you do to bowl your next delivery? And you can do that with everyone, with the footage that you have. And one thing that I love about the way that Matt goes about his business, it's all calculated. It's a short time between deliveries, but you watch him bowl, there's purpose to every ball that he bowls. And if he doesn't bowl one, you can pretty much tell with his language, if it doesn't go in the right area, his body language, that he hasn't got it right. But him in his career now at a young age, he's piecing this mindset together and this plan. It'll only get better and better over time. And one question I want to ask you about is, as a finger spinner, what variations do you have? Because I know I didn't have many, but, we look at leggies, they've got wrong ones, they've got sliders and things. What are some of your variations that you bring into a big bash game?
I think in general as a finger spinner, I think your accuracy is the most important thing. So that's probably my number one, even going into a season, is making sure my accuracy is it was not excellent, but close to excellent. So, and then like Sock said, as a finger spinner, you got to be ready to bowl the first over to the 20th over. So for me, if I'm bowling the power play, it's an arm ball that sort of swings for the first couple overs. Then it's pretty much the top of the stumps. You have a top spinner, and then for me, it's just probably a cross seam. If it's slow and wide, like what Sock used to bowl is slow and wide cross seam for the drift, and then a Yorker. You probably this day and age you need a Yorker because to get out of some overs can be quite daunting. So there's not a whole lot. It's just slow wide, top of the stumps, Yorker, and try and swing a ball. So I wish I had a doozer and whatnot, but no, it's trying to keep it as simple as possible and just making sure that accuracy is pinpoint.
So just on that, Matt, you've talked about how soccer has really helped you with your cricket, playing test cricket in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. Who are the sort of people that you go to outside of soccer that make you a better bowler, the experiences that you've had over the last 18 months?
You always look at like sort of the best left-arm spinners around the world, and for me that's Sock, Dan Vittori, done a fair bit of work with him now, so he's excellent, and they both have just so many great things, and you take the best things from both of them and sort of join them together. So, but apart from them too, I sort of rely on the batters. I love talking to the batters as well. So, okay. I have a close relationship with Usman and Marnus, so always talking to them in the nets outside the game about spin bowling, because they're just great players, world class players of spin bowling, and they've faced pretty much everyone in the world in all types of conditions. So, them too.
So when you're talking to Uzi or Marnus, is it more about what they want to have as a batsman or more what they don't want to have to face as a batsman to sort of, get into their minds from a batting point of view to make you a better player?
Yeah, everything, both, bit of the both. Usman will probably, if you're in the nets, he'll tell you if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm doing something good. Where Marnus during the net sessions, he probably won't say too much until after, because it's real competitive. So no, I'm really lucky that them two have taken a lot out of their time to help me as a bowler. Obviously, another one is John Davison and Swepo as well. Like he's been excellent for me. I've been bowling with him for about 10 years alongside him in the nets or in games. So it's always been myself, Swepo, and Davo in the nets growing up in Queensland. So we're always talking about spin bowling and always trying different conditions and whatnot.
The club's released a documentary based not just on you winning the title last year, but almost the rebuild, the rebirth of the club. When you look back on it now, can you believe how quickly you were able to turn it around? The entire, not just the way you played, but just the culture of the club. It feels like it's totally different in the space of 2 years.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. The documentary Ignite, it was awesome. It's such a great watch, so I couldn't recommend it.
I hear you're a bit of a star in it too.
I wasn't a star, no way. Spencer's more the star. No, it was awesome. The documentary is great, and probably sort of we're very lucky to have it, because I think we have it for the rest of our life and go back and watch it. So no, the culture of the Heat's always been good on and off the field. So it was just probably breaking down them small things and how are we gonna win at home? How can we make that extra 10, 20 runs, and how can we sort of defend an extra 10, 20 runs with the ball as well? So, and for that's probably we talk about the spinners coming into the game a bit more. The signing of Spencer, what he brings on the field and off the field is excellent. And then I think the main one is Uzi. So Uzi has a massive say. Even during this test summer as well, he's always invested in what's going on with signings and whatnot. So I think you put all them together, just them little things has made a massive difference.
The club is actually releasing a documentary. It's called Reignite, a Brisbane Heat story, which is available now on 7plus and also on the Brisbane Heat YouTube channel. And I think it's that impressive. You can actually watch it in the cinemas as well at some point over the summer. But Johan Botha and the involvement that he's had in Queensland cricket as well as the Heat. So you haven't experienced him, obviously, as a Queensland player this year. But from your early thoughts of him, he's been part of the BBL system now for such a long period of time. What do you think he's going to bring to the Heat?
Yeah, I haven't had too much with Boats as of yet, but the boys loving him and the Bulls. So I'm really excited personally to work with him with his spin bowling and what he's played pretty much all around the world and also coach. So his experience is going to be fantastic for our team, and hopefully they can rub off on me as a spin bowler. And I sort of ran into him on the way here. He just came back from his run. He probably ran 100 kilometres this morning, right. So he loves his running. But no, he's a lovely fella.
What do you think you'll play differently? I mean, it's a very unusual situation where you're the champion team from last year, but you've got a new coach. So I would imagine there's a combination of wanting to continue what's been happening, but also Johan wanting to put his own stamp on things. How do you feel it will unfold this year?
Boats is really simple. So I think he'll sort of work out what's the best team, what's the best plan based on conditions and go from there. But there's still a fair, majority of the chunk is the same team we had last year, but obviously there's some big holes to fill with Josh Brown and Billings not there, and Nessa not around for the first couple of games. So sort of Boats will sort of work around with Colin Munro and sort of work out the best plan and way forward.
Do you feel that the team that's going to win it this year is going to have the best depth? There's a lot of clubs at the moment that have got injury issues. There's obviously always going to be availability issues. That not necessarily your best 11 that's going to win it. It's going to be your best squad. Yeah,
it looks that way at the moment. Scorch has had a fair few injuries. We're missing probably 5 guys for our first game. So, depth's definitely going to come into it. So, but like that, I think hopefully we do have that depth. There's some really exciting young players in our squad. And it's going to be great to see people like Max Bryant. He had a great year for us last year. So hopefully Maxie can stand up. But also we'll rely heavily on on someone like Colin Munro, Xavier Bartlett's bowling beautifully. So, probably a mixture of both.
Is it hard when the team changes all the time, or is it that's just the BBL? You just got to deal with it?
Yeah, I think that's just cricket in general. You sort of got to deal with it. But we were lucky last year. We had our same bowling attack for every single game, which is unheard of. So, I think it's just one of them things. Like I may have to bowl a couple overs in the power play, or bowl a couple of the death overs. So, my role might change. Swappo's role might change, be a little bit different for the first couple of games. But then hopefully in the back end we sort of have a cemented bowling attack that. And we'll go from there.
And just one final one on yourself before we get to our favourite segment. Just going and playing in Tassie and getting a lot of overs under your belt through the first sort of 6 rounds of the Shield, do you feel that it's an experience that is going to make you a better cricketer from what you've gone through over the last 6 months? Don't worry about how you've played for Australia in white ball and red ball, but just that whole thing of going down to a new state and almost being the man when it comes to the spinning options down in Tassie.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely made me a better cricketer, but I think it's made me a better person as well. So going outside your bubble is something that experience is going to be great on and off the field. So, and I meet another 20, 30 people, new people with new ideas like Silky and Vorney and playing alongside Bo Webster. So, it's always going to be good for you. So, I've enjoyed the challenge so far and it's been great. So hopefully it pays off and I take some wickets and go well for the Big Bash. But I've loved it so far.
Does the Sri Lankan tour, is that in the front of your mind or in the back of your mind? Because it isn't too far away. It would cut into a BBL campaign for you. How are you sort of feeling about that at the moment?
Yeah, it's in the back of my mind, especially now Big Bash is here. You're sort of very busy schedule, so you're sort of thinking about the next game for the Heat, and then see what happens. You can't really control selection, so I'd love to be on that trip. But at the end of the day, it's is what it is. At the moment, I'm here to play cricket for the Brisbane Heat and try and win as many games for them. So. Yeah, at the moment, it's in the back of my mind.
It is so good to have Matt Kuhnemann in the studio with us. Before we go, we've got to do Yes, No, Wait. It's one of our favourite segments on The Surge. And considering Sock that used to open the bowling quite regularly for the Sixers, and I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the Sixers, you can go first. We've been talking a lot about left arm finger spin, left arm orthodox throughout the program. Just straight up, is it the most important part to T20 cricket?
Absolutely. Whitey, every team needs a left arm finger spinner. It was proven right.
I've just bowled you a half volley here, haven't I? I've actually bowled you a half volley for Yes, No, Wait.
I've smacked it for one like I would to mid-wicket. That's what I do with half volleys. But yes, every team needs a left arm finger spinner, mate. We saw that last year in the final. Heat versus the Sixers both had left arm finger spinners.
So why are they important? I'll ask you first, Matt, and then go back to why are they so important?
I'm going to steal Sock's answer. I think it's because of the angles. The accuracy, like I said, right-handers probably aren't used to the angles that they get, and they can sort of bowl any over from the 1st to the 20th.
So it's a yes from both of you. No surprise there, it's fair to say. Ashton Turner, is he the best skipper in the BBL? Mate, you can start with this one.
The WA boys speak really highly of him, so... So is it yes, no?
Or wait?
I'm going to go wait because I've never played under him.
That's fair enough.
I've heard good things.
Fair enough. Sock?
Look, we want me to say, I'm going to have to say no, obviously, because I've played under Moses and, I rate him. But, Ashton Turner is an amazing leader. They've won 5 titles. A lot of the success has got to do with him. So I'm saying no, only because I want to stay loyal to the Sixers. But if I had to play under one other skipper in this competition, it's Ashton Turner for sure.
We were talking about this at the start of the show. I think Turner and Enriquez both fall in that same category of being able to just control the tempo of the match, control the way the game's played, essentially. That's whether they're out in the middle batting or when they're in the field. It just feels like it's totally on their watch. Yeah,
they've got, Matt's played against them. They feel like they've just got more time, even when they're out in the middle batting. He watched his innings the other night, 19 off 19, then exploded. Just that calming presence while he's batting. Moses was the same the other night. And then in the middle when you're bowling, you can see him just talking to the bowlers, every ball, just walking them through what's the next delivery. If a boundary gets hit, there's not really anyone getting flustered. There's not a lot of hand movements. There's not a lot of rushing. There's not a lot of anger in what he does, and it's so simple and calculated, and that presence is really calming when you're playing in front of 30,000 who are yelling and screaming and, teams just wanting success. Having that calming influence out is so important, and he's a big cog in that Scorchers team. Missed him last year, and I think he might be the reason why they go a little bit further again this year.
All right, Matt, you can go first here again. Home ground advantage has become a huge factor in the BBL.
Yes, definitely. I think you see why. Well, in particular, the two best teams the last couple of years have been the Scorchers and the Sixers. So their record would be pretty much fantastic at their home grounds.
Okay, and you talked about it before, actually, as well, about needing to improve it at the Gabba. So, what about you, Sock?
Yeah, well, the Sixers 13 from 16 from home in their last 16 encounters. It's so important that you've in a coin toss of winning games between teams. 60% of the games Scorchers win, they're the most successful. You need something going your way just a little bit, and it has to be the home ground advantage that you own. You want to make it feel so uncomfortable for teams to get there. And look at the teams that are having great success. When you go there, you dread going to the Gabba. You dread going top the stadium, and I'm sure teams dread coming to the SCG because in those tight battles, generally the home team gets up.
All right, that's it. We've done for the Surge for this week. Matt, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it the day before a game. Good luck at the MCG and good luck throughout the course of the tournament, defending your title.
Thanks, lads. Cheers.
And Sock, thank you for being part of our program as well as special co-host. Let's hope you can do it again soon.
Whitey, thank you. And Matty, good luck, mate. The hunted become... No, you are the hunted now, aren't you? Because you've won it. The hunters have become the hunted. So good luck, mate. Go well at the Stars. I love your left arm finger spinning work, and I look forward, Whitey, to a little bit more work on the Surge, mate. Great podcast and series. So looking forward to this summer.
Excellent.
Thanks, Socky.
And of course, for everyone that is listening to us or watching us, Catch the Surge podcast throughout BBL 14 all the way to the very end. And as always, you can stay up to date with the latest news on the Big Bash app. We'll catch you next time.